Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Just because you're eating plant-based doesn't mean you can't ring in the holidays with everyone else. Today, I'm joined by special guest Madison Warnock, and we're gonna make some of our favorite plant-based holiday dishes. But first, we're gonna make my favorite holiday drink that, given its name, shouldn't be possible to be plant-based. One of the things that went on plant-based that I was worried I'd miss out on was eggnog. And so it makes me really excited to share an eggnog recipe with others, because I think it's something people still don't realize they can make a plant-based version of.
And even for those who aren't fully plant-based, I like it better.
All you need for eggnog is fat and flavor.
And a little sweetness.
And we're starting with 4 cups of just tap water, and then we'll add more depending if it's thick enough or not thick enough.
This is 2 cups of soaked cashews, 10 dates. Just make sure they're pitted.
And soft. If they're not soft, you can always soak them in warm water too for a little bit, just to soften them up a bit.
You want to be nice to your blender. 1/2 cup of coconut milk, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. We went 1/4 teaspoon of clove, 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom, and a pinch of salt. And a teaspoon of vanilla.
And then we're just gonna blend this all together. Okay, so I think this is pretty blended together. It's hard to get that's good enough.
Oh.
That's right for me. I wouldn't want to add any more liquid for sure.
No, I don't want more spice.
It's gonna thicken up nicely.
And it's also a good texture because you now have 2 options with eggnog. 1, you can pour it over ice, or 2, you can heat it up. So if you make it too thick at this point, when you heat it up, you're gonna have to add more water to it.
So we're gonna put this in the fridge and just let it chill for however long, and then give it a shake though. You wanna give it a shake before you drink it, because things will probably settle.
Spices are gonna be at the bottom, so you don't want the first pour to be sad.
Same as any plant milk, you gotta give it a little shake before you go. What deliciousness are we making?
We're gonna do a squash galette.
So what's a galette?
A galette is essentially a rustic pie. So we're gonna make a pie crust, but instead of making it like uniform and pretty on the outside, you roll it out so it's a bit wider, and then you fold it over the filling. We can get you to add in the chickpea flour, 1 cup, 1/4 cup of cornmeal. In here we have 1 tablespoon of rosemary and 1 tablespoon of thyme, chopped finely. That's the other part of savory pies. You can put herbs in the crust so it tastes better. And then we have a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of black pepper. First step is we are going to mix the dry ingredients just so that they're all uniform. Nice, that's it. So this is where it gets, not tricky, but this is where you need a little bit of time and attention.
We already put the time in. Oh, it's an herb joke.
The next is we're gonna add the fat component. We want it to be flaky. So we have 1/2 cup of plant-based butter that's nice and cold. So I'm just gonna pulse it, and you're gonna add the butter, and then we're gonna do it until there's little pea form.
Little crumblies.
Little crumblies, yeah, exactly. So I'm happy with that texture, so you can still see the little bits. So now we're going to add our water, because that's gonna combine it all. So we're going to slowly add 3 tablespoons. We have the ice cubes in the water just to keep it as cold as possible. So it's starting to form balls, which means that's perfect. We are just going to put a piece of saran wrap down, and we're going to pull that out.
Just like a ball?
Yeah.
And then just wrap her up?
Exactly. I'm gonna let it sit into in the fridge for a minimum 1 hour.
Now what?
I'm gonna get you to put some brown rice flour on the bottom, please. Now we are going to roll it out. It is very forgiving, so you wanna roll it out into a disc. And again, because it's a gluten-free one, it's not gonna be as stretchy as a normal pie crust.
And by not as stretchy, you mean not stretchy at all?
At all, exactly. When you're making this at home, take your time with it.
Yeah.
Don't rush it. Keep using the spatula. Keep rotating it. Just because then you know that's not gonna stick. So we slid the galette crust onto the parchment, and now we're going to make the filling. We're using butternut squash. We roasted this for 15 minutes at 400. So we are going to start with about 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and this little pocket of joy. This is roasted garlic. You can just squeeze it out exactly like that.
And this seems like a lot of garlic, but when you roast it too, it mutes the flavors a little bit.
Yeah, it gets much more mellow. I love it in here just because I think it adds some really nice flavor. I know, it's heaven.
So we got that garlic and mustard all nicely mixed together.
Yeah, so now we're gonna add like 2 tablespoons just to the bottom. So this is going to be the glue that holds the squash and the shallots down. You don't wanna go anywhere closer than 2 inches around the edge, because that's actually where we're going to turn Galette up. And so now in this bowl, we have about 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 teaspoon of maple syrup, 1/4 teaspoon of red chili flakes, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna add butternut squash in there.
Just toss it around.
Toss it around. And we're also gonna add 4 shallots that are thinly sliced. It might seem like a lot of shallots, but again, once it's roasted in the oven, it's gonna get very nice and mellow. It's gonna get a bit sweeter. So you're gonna mix that around. So now is where you get to make a beautiful shape. The reason why you par cook the squash is so that as it overlaps, you're not gonna get raw spots. So this is more just to kind of like make sure everything can sit happy together. Now I'm gonna take one, I'm gonna split it into half. I'm gonna create my middle. Grab the shallots and then kind of drape them over a bit, yeah. And then that way they're gonna caramelize as it bakes. So now what you're just gonna take that little extra inch, you're gonna flip it up. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna kind of create a barrier so any juices as it's cooking can hold in. So you're just gonna go around the edge. So once all the edges are up, now again you wanna go around and you just kind of wanna like make sure all the seams are filled around the edge. We are going to brush the outsides with a little aquafaba, just so that we can get a nice brown crust on the outside. You can also use a plant-based milk if you don't have aquafaba. I just find that it gives you the best glaze.
And aquafaba is?
Chickpea water.
And so this is in place of like an egg wash.
Exactly, yeah. I am going to give this like 3 cracks of pepper on the top. All right, and there we have our little squash galette. We're gonna bake this for 15 minutes at 375. So we're gonna rotate it and then we're gonna bake it for another 10 to 15 minutes.
What's going on here? What are we gonna do with this?
This is a roasted root salad. It can work with all different types of root vegetables. Today, I selected Brussels sprouts, carrots, fennel, and then the base is radicchio. We roasted the Brussels sprouts for 15 minutes. We roasted the carrots for 15 minutes. Then we roasted the fennel for 25 minutes. To start, all we did, medium heat, about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. We pan-seared radicchio. And the best part is it plates absolutely beautiful. Because again, when you're making a salad for the holidays, it's supposed to be a centerpiece.
That's pretty. How do we make it prettier?
We're gonna add our root vegetables first, and then we're gonna finish it off with some citrus and some really bright flavors. I segmented a grapefruit. We're gonna add it just like that. Roasted root vegetables and grapefruit sound a little weird, but when you eat them together, the acid is beautiful. It's a very good combination. Disperse the pomegranates as you'd like.
Okay.
Again, they're beautiful. They're gonna have this nice texture.
So while I'm doing this, why don't you explain what's in that dressing?
Yeah, so this is just olive oil, maple syrup, Dijon mustard, a little bit of garlic, and then salt and pepper. And then, so this is the fun part. The liquid that you have left over from the segmented grapefruits, that's gonna act as our acid in the dressing. Dressing is how much or as how little as you'd like. We didn't add any seasoning to the roasted vegetables, so you can be quite liberal with this. We're garnishing with fennel fronds. So when you get a fennel bulb, you're gonna see these fronds at the very top. Don't throw them away. They have a really nice aroma, and also they're just beautiful.
That is our roasted radicchio salad.
Yeah, that's my favorite like holiday salad.
Now, where's yours? Because this is mine. It's impossible for a holiday season to go by in my house without making gingerbread because it's just a staple. And Maddie...
I've never made gingerbread before.
So that's very exciting to me. This is my basic recipe. We're gonna use it to make cookies, but you could also use this to make a gingerbread house if you wanted to. I would just double or triple the batch accordingly. And if you wanna make this recipe gluten-free, I've done it before, just swap out the whole wheat flour with a gluten-free 1-to-1. So we're gonna start kind of how you would normally make cookies by just mixing together. I've just got some plant-based margarine there with some coconut sugar. And then we're just gonna cream that. So while this is going, I'm also gonna add in everything except for the flour. So what we've got here is a 1/4 cup of almond butter. You could also use peanut butter if you want, but it'll give a different flavor. Almond's a bit nicer for this. I believe it's 3 tablespoons of molasses, a flax egg, which is just 1 tablespoon of flaxseed with 2.5 tablespoons of water mixed together. Fresh ginger. You can use ground ginger.
Nothing beats fresh ginger.
It's not as good, trust me, use this. And then it's just a barrage of the other spices. 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, a dash of cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. That's a lot of flavors going on. Oh, that already tastes like gingerbread.
We're just diluting the gingerbread with flour.
Now we're gonna put the flour in. It's 1.5 cups. I recommend just putting in 1/2 cup at a time and letting it mix together. And then if you can always put a little more. You just have to kind of judge the consistency, right? There we go.
That's delicious. It'd be a ridiculous, like, raw cookie dough.
Yeah, I mean, you can eat this because there's no egg in it, right? So
Yeah.
you could eat this as a raw dough if you wanted to. But we're gonna bake it.
That'd be so good in ice cream. Bits of it.
All right, we're changing everything. We're making gingerbread ice cream. And so now all we're gonna do now is take a piece of plastic wrap. Oh, this is what always happens, right? You do this at home. I'm gonna salvage it. See, I did it. Not all heroes wear capes. So it's gonna be a really thick ball. And then we're just gonna wrap it in plastic. And then we're gonna let this sit inside the fridge for at least a half an hour.
Oh my gosh. That's like the difference between bad store-bought gingerbread and then gingerbread that makes you feel like it's a warm hug.
So now all we need to do is take some flour. I like to use brown rice flour. It's nice for rolling things out.
Doesn't make it gritty.
It doesn't, yeah. And it doesn't necessarily stick to the flour as much. So we're just gonna pop that on there. And then we're just gonna roll it out until it's about 1/4 inch thick.
And is this a dough that you can just like kind of like Play-Doh the cracks?
You can just,
So you don't have to
yeah.
be worried about it?
No, you can totally, like you can see it's kind of cracking already, but then you can just come in here and mash it together. But the beautiful thing about this kind of dough too is you cut, you shape, and then you can re-roll it, as you'll see.
Oh, so you have no waste.
So this is about, I think that's the right thickness. So then we're just gonna start making shapes. So I find the trick is like, stay it in, give it a little wiggle.
A little wiggle just to give it a little breathing room?
Yeah, and then what you might wanna do, leave it in there, keep on cutting around. Give it a little wiggle and it'll help separate it. We did, but now we're just gonna peel it away.
Ooh.
So, and then just kind of make a ball over here because we're gonna re-roll it in a second.
Gotcha, okay.
So this is where you gotta be careful, and this is why you flour the
spatula.
bottom. Is you just gotta carefully kind of transfer them over to your cookie sheet. And they poof up a little bit, but you don't need to leave a ton of room on the
so
tray.
kind of like expanding?
They'll expand a little bit, but not a ton. So you wanna give them a little bit of room on the pan to move around. We just take this big clump and then just kind of give it a quick kneading in. Let's throw some more flour on there. And then again, just roll it out. Cut more shapes, put them on the pan. And you're gonna wanna bake this at 350 degrees for roughly 8 to 10 minutes, depending on your oven. So we've added Ephraim to the mix because what are we gonna do now?
Make icing.
Right. So this is a plant-based version of basically royal icing. So we're gonna sift this. You wanna sift your icing sugar so that it's nice and soft and there's just no clumps, right? Do it like it owes you money. There you go. Good job, buddy.
Yay.
Now we're gonna start whisking it and we're just gonna add in 2 tablespoons of plant milk and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup and just a splash of vanilla. You can use whatever extract you want. If you wanna make mint frosting,
Almond?
almond would be good too. After this, if you want, you could add food coloring as well. Okay.
So what's like the rule of thumb for consistency?
But you kind of want to see a shape holding. That's not bad.
Looks good.
So we're just gonna fill this until it's full. These cookies came out pretty much perfectly. I ended up just baking them for 9 minutes and let them cool on the rack. And they only take a couple minutes to cool. And while that happened, we made the icing, which is ready to go. And now we're just gonna decorate. And you can use any candies you wanna put on top, or you can just put some icing on top. You do have good piping skills.
Don't bump me.
Look at that. Yeah. So we'll be here for about an hour, icing cookies.
I have an idea.
Okay, here we go.
As a scarf.
Oh, this is a brilliant idea. Oh, I like that. And maybe some little eyes.
You messed it up.
See, this
You
is
like-
what I... What did I do?
Supposed to be a good family time.
It wasn't supposed
This
to
is
be.
what it turns into. It starts off fun. You're making cookies and candy, and then you lay a candy worm down the wrong way, and it all goes to heck. Look at this spread. I don't even know where to start. I mean, let's go around the plate a little bit, right? So let's start with the salad.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. That dressing ties it all together. Those great earthy flavors from all the different vegetables. What do you think? You won't stop eating. That's the
No, it's a good salad because you don't get bored of eating it.
So I'm really dying to dive into that galette.
The mustard.
Oh no, I lost one.
Are you okay down there? That mustard pairs perfectly with all the herbs that are inside that crisp. It just kind of highlights them somehow.
That's what I like about the crust. You can actually taste the herbs. It's not like they get lost in it.
It reminds me of like, you know that dumpling soup that we used to have?
Yeah.
That.
It's very herby and festive. This is like a bite of the holidays right in and of itself with all of those delicious herbs. Let's try some of that eggnog now.
It's decadent, but it's not too thick. It's not too sweet.
You like it? You're a lover of eggnog generally,
Yeah.
but this is pretty good. I love it. It's not too thick, but it's like you can feel like you can drink this without having to really put it down. I find like some eggnogs are just so thick.
They're way too thick. No, this is perfect.
It's a beautiful balance of like fat and spice.
It's also not too much spice.
No. And then I'm gonna have my little cookie.
This is my first, probably had homemade gingerbread before, but this is my first, like, made it and ate it. Very good.
I love this gingerbread so much. Like for you, it's a bit too much ginger, I think. But
Yeah.
this is perfect. I'm the kind of person, I know a lot of people use kits.
No.
At home?
Don't use it.
You can't use the kit because I know people, because they just want to eat the stuff off of it. But I'm the kind of person that just walks around and just nauseous on the house, and I don't even care if there's candy on it.
Oh, no, I like it without the candy.
Thanks for coming over to celebrate the holidays with us.
Anytime.
And thanks for helping out too, bud.
My pleasure.
Happy holidays to everyone from PB with Jay.